Sahara. The Sahara is a desert located on the continent of Africa. It is the largest hot desert in the world and the third largest desert overall, with an area of 9,200,000 square kilometers, second only to the deserts of Antarctica and the northern Arctic. The Arabic word for desert in its singular, feminine irregular form, Ara, is the source of the name Sahara. With the exception of the lush Mediterranean Sea coast, the Atlas Mountains of the Maghreb, and the Nile Valley in Egypt and Sudan, the majority of North Africa is covered in desert. From the Red Sea in the east, the Mediterranean in the north, and the Atlantic Ocean in the west, the region progressively transitions from desert to coastal lowlands. The Sahel, a band of semi-arid tropical savanna centered on the Niger River basin and the Sudan region of sub-Saharan Africa, borders it to the south. The Sahara can be divided into a number of sections, including the Western Sahara, the Tenera Desert, the Libyan Desert, the Ahaggar Mountains in the center, the Tibesti Mountains, and the Ar Mountains. The precession of the Earth's axis as it rotates around the Sun, which alters the location of the North African monsoon, has led the Sahara to alternate between desert and savanna grassland in a 20,000-year cycle for several 100,000 years. Geography. Large portions of Algeria, Chad, Egypt, Libya, Mali, Mauritania, Morocco, Niger, Western Sahara, Sudan, and Tunisia are surrounded by the Sahara. It makes up 31% of Africa, or 9 million square kilometers. The Sahara would cover 11 million square kilometers if all regions with a mean annual precipitation of less than 250 millimeters were taken into account. It belongs to one of the continent of Africa's 3 different physiographic provinces. With near-current technology, the Sahara might theoretically be recognized as a surface feature of Earth from other stars due to its size and brightness. The Sahara is primarily made up of rocky hamada, stone plateaus, ergs, sand seas. Vast expanses covered in sand dunes make up a much smaller portion of the landscape, yet several of the sand dunes are over 180 meters high. Sand dunes, dune fields, sand seas, stone plateaus, gravel plains, ridge, dry valleys, wadi, dry lakes, oued, and salt flats are some of the features that the desert is known for, shat or shot. In Mauritania, there are peculiar landforms like the Rikhat structure. The Ar Mountains, Ahaggar Mountains, Saharan Atlas, Tibesti Mountains, Adrida Iforas, and Red Sea Hills are only a few of the profoundly fractured mountains that rise from the desert. Emikusi, a shield volcano in the Tibesti Range in northern Chad, is the highest point in the Sahara. The hyper-arid, sparsely vegetated Central Sahara is desert, with trees and higher shrubs growing in wadis, where precipitation concentrates. The northern and southern reaches of the desert, along with the highlands, feature patches of patchy grassland and desert shrub. There are numerous divisions of the Great Desert in the central, hyper-arid region, including Tainzraft, the Tenera, the Libyan Desert, the Eastern Desert, the Nubian Desert, and others. These severely dry regions frequently go for years without any rain. However, in Cyrenaica and the Maghreb, the Sahara borders the Mediterranean forest, woodland, and scrub ecoregions of northern Africa, all of which have a Mediterranean climate characterized by hot summers and cool, rainy winters. To the north, the Sahara skirts the Mediterranean Sea in Egypt and parts of Libya. The northern limit of the Sahara corresponds to the northern limit of date palm cultivation and the southern limit of the range of Esparto, a grass typical of the Mediterranean climate region of the Maghreb and Iberia, according to the botanical criteria of Frank White and geographer Robert Kapoor. Additionally, the 100 mm isohyet of yearly precipitation relates to the northern limit. The Sahel, a belt of dry tropical savanna with a summer rainy season that stretches across Africa from east to west, borders the Sahara to the south. Botanically, the southern limit of Cornulaca monacantha, a drought-tolerant member of the Chenopodiaceae, or the northern limit of Cenchrus biflorus, a grass typical of the Sahel, indicate the southern border of the Sahara. The 150 mm isohyet of yearly precipitation corresponds to the southern edge of the Sahara based on meteorological factors. This is a long-term average, since precipitation varies annually. Nouakchott, the capital of Mauritania, Tamanrasset, Ouargla, Beecher, Hassi Messaoud, Garda, and El Oued in Algeria, Timbuktu in Mali, Agadez in Niger, Gad in Libya, and Faya-Largeau in Chad are important cities that are situated in the Sahara. Climate. The Sahara is the biggest hot desert on Earth. It is situated in the horse latitudes beneath the subtropical ridge, a substantial belt of semi-permanent subtropical warm-core high pressure where air from the upper troposphere typically descends, warming and drying the lower troposphere and inhibiting cloud formation. Reference needed. The constant absence of clouds permits unimpeded thermal radiation and light. Rainfall is essentially non-existent due to the stability of the atmosphere above the desert, which inhibits any convective overturning. As a result, there is typically little chance of precipitation and the weather is typically bright, dry, and stable. Convectional showers are very unlikely to form in conjunction with subtropical high-pressure systems sloping, diverging, dry air masses. The main cause of this wide area's hot desert climate, Köppen climatic classification BWH, is the subtropical ridge. The eastern portion of the Great Desert and the Libyan Desert has the strongest and most productive descending airflow. This region rivals the Atacama Desert in Chile and Peru for being the sunniest, driest, and practically rainless spot on Earth. Instead of the western, the eastern part of the Sahara exhibits the greatest restriction of rainfall and dissipation of cloud cover. The continental tropical, CT, air mass, which is hot and dry, dominates the atmosphere above the Sahara. As the enormous continental land area warms, hot, dry air masses primarily gather over the North African desert, affecting the whole desert for the most of the year. A thermal low is typically seen near the surface as a result of this intense heating process. It is greatest and most developed in the summer. The Sahara High, which is centered over the North Atlantic Ocean, is the eastern continental extension of the Azores High. During the coolest months of the year, the Sahara High subsidence almost touches the ground, yet, during the hottest months, it is limited to the upper troposphere. Because upper-level subsidence still prevents any kind of air ascension, the impacts of local surface low pressure are very restricted. The desert's topographical makeup and position also make it even drier, protecting it from rain-bearing weather systems by the air circulation itself. In fact, the Atlas Mountains of Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia also contribute to the aridity of the northern half of the desert, which helps to explain the great aridity of the Sahara. These large mountain ranges function as a barrier, reducing most of the humidity delivered by air disturbances along the polar front that affect the nearby Mediterranean climates, creating a substantial rain-shadow effect on the leeward side. The Intertropical Convergence Zone, a persistent belt of low-pressure systems near the equator that brings the brief, sporadic rainy season to the Sahel and southern Sahara, is the main cause of rain in the Sahara. The physical and atmospheric constraints that often limit the creation of precipitation must be overcome for rain to fall in this vast desert. The harsh Saharan climate is characterized by extremely low, inconsistent, and highly erratic rainfall, extremely high sunshine duration values, high temperatures all year round, negligible relative humidity rates, a sizable diurnal temperature variation, and extremely high levels of potential evaporation, which are the highest recorded worldwide. Temperature. Overlooking the desert, the sky is typically clear, and the Sahara has exceptionally long periods of sunshine. Over 3,600 hours of brilliant sunshine every year, more than 82% of the day, fall on the majority of the desert, and over 4,000 hours, more than 91% of the day, fall on a sizable portion of it in the eastern part. The maximum values are extremely close to the greatest values. In Upper Egypt, Aswan, Luxor, and the Nubian Desert, a value of 4,300 hours, 98% of the time would be recorded, Wadi Halfa. In the Great Desert, the average yearly direct sun irradiation is about 2,800 kilowatt-hours. The Sahara offers a significant amount of solar energy generation potential. The Great Desert is the warmest big region on Earth and, in certain places, the hottest place on Earth during the summer because of the high position of the sun, the extremely low relative humidity, the lack of vegetation, and rainfall. During the hottest month, the average high temperature in the desert reaches 38 to 40 degrees Celsius or 100.4 to 104.0 degrees Fahrenheit almost everywhere, with the exception of very high altitudes. Only Death Valley, California, which is located in the American West, can match the world's highest officially recorded average daily high temperature of 47 degrees Celsius or 116.6 degrees Fahrenheit, which was reported in the isolated Algerian desert village of Boubrenous at a height of 378 meters, 1,240 feet. With elevations between 200 and 400 meters, 660 and 1,310 feet above sea level, other hotspots in Algeria, such as Adrar, Timamon, and Sulla, Walain, Aleph, and Regain, see significantly lower summer average highs, averaging around 46 degrees Celsius or 114.8 degrees Fahrenheit during the hottest months of the year. In June, July, August, and September, Sulla, which is widely known in Algeria for its intense heat, experiences average high temperatures of 43.8 degrees Celsius or 110.8 degrees Fahrenheit, 46.4 degrees Celsius or 115.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and 45.5 degrees Celsius or 113.9 degrees Fahrenheit. Even hotter sections of the Sahara exist, although they are tucked away in inaccessible regions, particularly in the Azalai in northern Mali. In the southern central section of the desert, there are up to 6 or 7 months where the average high temperature strictly exceeds 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit, compared to the majority of the desert where this occurs for 3 to 5 months on average. This can be seen, for instance, in Bilma, Niger, and Faya-Largeau, Chad. Everywhere in the world, the yearly average daily temperature is higher than 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and it can even reach 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit in the hottest areas all year long. However, the majority of the desert has a temperature higher than 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Extreme ground and sand temperatures exist. The temperature of the sand throughout the day can easily exceed 80 degrees Celsius or 176 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. In Port Sudan, sand temperatures of 83.5 degrees Celsius 182.3 degrees Fahrenheit have been noted. In the Adrar region of Mauritania, ground temperatures have been reported at 72 degrees Celsius or 161.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and in Borkou, northern Chad, a temperature of 75 degrees Celsius 167 degrees Fahrenheit has been observed. The desert typically experiences significant diurnal temperature fluctuations between the day and night because of the absence of clouds and extremely low humidity. The idea that the nights of the Sahara are particularly cold following extraordinarily hot days is untrue. The difference in temperature between day and night is about 13 to 20 degrees Celsius, 23 to 36 degrees Fahrenheit. Due to high humidity, the coastal districts experience the smallest differences, which are frequently even less than a 10 degrees Celsius or 18 degrees Fahrenheit difference, whereas the interior desert regions, particularly in the southern Sahara, see the highest variations. Even still, it is true that winter nights can be chilly because temperatures, particularly in high elevation places, can fall to or even below the freezing threshold. The North Atlantic Oscillation, NAO, which causes milder winter temperatures during negative NAO events and colder winters with more frosts when the NAO is positive, has a significant impact on how frequently subfreezing winter nights occur in the Sahara. This is because, despite being too dry to produce more than minuscule precipitation, the weaker clockwise flow around the eastern edge of the subtropical anticyclone during negative NAO winters greatly reduces the passage of dry, cold air from higher latitudes of Eurasia into the Sahara.